Welcome to the Oh So Spurs podcast. It's brilliant to be back after a much needed win, and we're going to be joined by special guest Jay today. How are you, Jay?
Good, thanks for asking. I'm good. It's nice to be back. It's always good to be on the show. So yeah, appreciate you having me.
Great to have you on. And we have Stu in sunny Dubai, as always.
I'm feeling great. Finally got over my COVID. I can join the real world again.
Good to have you back on form. And of course, we have Johnny packing his bags, ready for the game tomorrow. How are you, mate?
I'm pumped. Totally. I was
You're
super
scared
pumped.
by the sound of you
Especially
there.
after that, the commentary, I'm still sort of reeling, but I'm so relieved. God, that was horrible.
Yeah.
It was really horrible.
Well, I'm going to bring the mood down for a second.
Bring the mood down. Sorry, Jim.
No, I'm going to bring it down, but not to do with football, not to do with Spurs. I just want to quickly kick, before we start this pod, we've raised a bunch of money lately for a initiative that we're starting alongside another football club. And I just want to quickly tell you the story about that, see if you're interested in it and explain what our official charity will be called. So for those who don't know me, I'm Jim, and I obviously host the show and started it up a while ago, 2 years ago. And the reason it kind of came about was because I'd gone through quite a tough period in my life where my life got turned upside down. So I had a great career, was on the verge, about a month away from my wedding day, marrying a girl that I'd loved all my life. She had been with someone else for years, but that hadn't worked out for them. We met up in our early 20s and we got together, and I'd married my child, going to marry my childhood sweetheart. Brilliant. Career's going great. Brilliant. But then I got diagnosed with cancer. So I found numerous tumours inside my body and needed to have quite intensive chemotherapy and other treatments. Wedding gets cancelled and everything else. And then during that time, I'd kind of moved in with my parents again because, you don't have an immune system if you know people who've had chemotherapy. It kind of, you can't really leave the house and anywhere with groups of people. So yeah, I was doing that, and my wife moved in with me as well, and she was like taking care of me and stuff, which was really, well, fiance at the time, taking care of me and all those kind of things. But then one day when I was having a shower and clumps of hair were falling out, I just burst into tears for, like, I can't explain the feeling. I've never, ever been like that before. I've never seen my dad cry. We're a stiff upper lip. I don't know if you've seen a YouTube video, you can probably find it, of King Charles' assassination attempt, where someone runs up on stage and tries to shoot him, and he just stands there like it would be improper if I was to duck down here or show any level of fear. Like, that's the way I've kind of been raised to be. So I'm just not the type of person who gets like that. And then it started to feel quite normal to me, the idea of just thinking, like, just literally contemplating the idea of just jumping in front of a train or just taking my own life in whatever way I could think would be easy. And it didn't scare me. It just felt like this is a really nice, easy way to move on from the situation, because my body's dying. I just don't feel happy. And it wasn't even like feeling miserable every day. It was just like, I just could easily take my own life, and it just didn't bother me, which was quite a weird thing to be in. One of the things that stopped me doing that was kind of the guilt feeling of what impact that would have on other people. And one in particular being my fiance, who was sticking with me for all this, because there's a second part to the story and a reason that's led to this charity. Is my brother-in-law, Toby, just got on a new job, his first job actually, and he had folded up his clothes the next day for work, and his parents had said, we're going to go to the pub and have a pint and, celebrate the good news. He popped outside for a walk or whatever, and he never came back. So he took his own life very shortly after that. So he was a huge Chelsea fan as well, but no one ever found out why he took his own life. So he seemed happy. He just sent a message to a friend on Facebook to say happy birthday. No one actually knew what was going through his head. And then that kind of, during my time, I kind of realized that one of my biggest support networks this was my wife and my friends and stuff. But it was actually football that kind of kept me going through a lot of it and made me, like, just decide not to do something too rash. Just like go on an extra day and see how things go an extra day. And things like listening to The Fighting Cock and having all those guys who are like really positive, funny, and just made football like something that isn't just about winning football matches. It became like just a fun topic to talk about with people who also enjoy that topic and have a laugh about together and not take too seriously all the time. And, you write in silly questions about which player you'd want to sleep with your wife and all that kind of stuff. Like, it just all kind of became a bit of fun community. And then after I'd gotten better and things had gone back on track, football just started to become a place that I couldn't really escape to anymore. It got very negative. Like there's these rise in big channels that just have a very different perception of football, that it's all about winning. And if you're not on that same page, you're a problem. And you can't even hide from it because algorithms on social media push that content to you when you don't follow it. And some of those people are going out proactively to come find you just because you don't want to talk about what they want to talk about with them, which is problems around ownership or reasons they hate the football club or whatever it is. And that's when the Oso Spurs idea came out. Put it up on Twitter and said, hey, anyone else sick of all this stuff and just want like a happy space back to talk about the fun sides of the club? And we'll put our hands up about some criticism from now and again, but we want to enjoy football for what it is and get behind the team. And it went crazy. And then in that time, Stu, Johnny and Deej and Sai said, yeah, we're up for this too. So we said, well, guys, let's do a podcast and meet up when we next go to a game, right? And then we've all formed special friendships over the years. We all meet up a lot in person, and the show's just been going for 2 years and going from strength to strength. And then lastly, following on from that, what happened was we recently recorded a pod with someone from a Bournemouth podcast, Simon, and he said, look, one of his people he went to games with took his own life. No one really knows why, and they were just frustrated they hadn't got ahead of it, hadn't been able to understand how they could potentially have helped that person before they did it. So he'd started a charity called Talking Cherries, which is about getting just a safe place, not full of toxicity, where Bournemouth fans can go and have a chat with one another. And it doesn't have to always be, I'm feeling low and depressed. It could just be, you need that escapism in a nice environment. And then he's got a bunch of people first aid trained in mental health, so they can help people and signpost them if they are particularly struggling. So we said, look, we'll do Talking Spurs then. We'll join forces. We'll get all the clubs. If all the clubs can get together and we can all have people within the community that are mental health first trained, and there's a place they can go to just escape the negativity and also know there's a really easy, you don't have to call a phone number, you don't have to do anything like that. You can just send a DM or a WhatsApp message to a fellow Spurs fan and just say, like, oh, I'm struggling a bit here. I'm looking for some like advice and signposting. I don't know what to do. You've got that support network there. So we put out a plea for some money to get certified, which costs about £1,000. And we got 1,800 in the first day. And I'll put the link in the bottom of this video if anyone wants to donate more. Anything extra we get, we're going to get more people mental health first aid trained. And we're also going to look to pass the money on to other football clubs, because the more clubs we get with people who have these communities and networks, the more people that can be helped. So you'll see an official launch soon of the charity. And thank you so much if you donated to us. And that gives you a bit of a flavour for who we are if you've joined us, not from day one, but midway through our pod journey. But anyway, so back to happy topics, everyone.
Sorry, Jim, I'm just going to hop in, if you don't mind, because I think it wouldn't be right for you to have shared all of that and for no one to respond, because I think for you to open up like that and share your own personal experience, your own individual experience, as well as that of your brother-in-law, and to be brave might be the adjective that's used in sort of in a cliched sense, but I think it's just like it's really heartening that you have the courage and you feel that you are happy to share that with the world, because so many people, there's the stigma that we've all grown up with when it comes to anything that corresponds with mental health issues. And when you get to know people better, and as we have with you and the other boys in the family, and when you brought this up after the Bournemouth podcast, the of us that are here today, plus I, all were sort of immediately very keen to get on board, because we've been touched by it as well. It's something that really does affect everybody. And I think the power of football, as much as here I am kind of moaning about the Coventry situation, when you hear about what you've said there in terms of those like really grave circumstances, but what football was able to do for you. And I think that is something that we can all identify with, because football, is kind of trivial as it is on one level, it does offer an amazing platform for humans, on men, women, every sort of type, to relate and understand and engage. And it's something, even in my job in school, like it's a significant backdrop for the banter in my classroom and with the other kids in other class. Football is an amazing sort of forum for that. And it's incredible to see, and it's not surprising to see as well, the response of the people who've listened to your story or read your story online. And I mean, as well as I knew that, I didn't actually know about your brother-in-law. and reading it, I could hear your voice, and I'm sure like the other boys were all like almost hairs on the back of the neck, sort of standing up. It was a very emotional thing to read, and even people who don't know you, who I've spoken to, felt exactly the same and were compelled to donate. So we really respect and I'm very grateful to you for bringing this and encouraging this, and it's great to be a part of. Hopefully, it will be something that makes a difference. But I think even just to have that conversation is so important because it is something that, as I said, it affects and has affected everybody in some pretty profound ways. It's definitely affected me in profound ways as well. Which I think as we all go through life, you realize that the Hollywood kind of version is just a whole heap of nonsense.
Yeah.
And the Manchester City experience is maybe for them and not for too many of the rest of us. So I just think thanks for what you're doing, and I think as with your hosting, you're leading the way on this as well. And I think that's fair play and tribute to you, Jim, for that. We're really really grateful. You're a great guy, really special guy.
100%.
Yeah.
Thanks to you guys as well. I know you guys, you mentioned it before. You've had your own personal situations with yourselves personally or with your family members in this area as well. So it's like everyone listening to this, if you often see it on Twitter that you're like someone just like some kid like just being like a knob and just abusing someone, and you think, I know instantly you're a child because you haven't gone through a life experience yet where you realize that everyone on the planet who's pretty much not a child, and a lot of children have had it as well, have been through a shitload of adversity, and you realize growing up is pretty much dealing with travesties, and each one gives you a scar and defines you more, and life gets pretty tough for people as they grow into their lives. And the last thing you want to start doing as you get older is adding more grief and adding more problems to people. All you want back is time, low stress, and just
No
a happy
negativity.
environment and not negativity, which is why we want to form a community that's less about that. And you look at my brother-in-law, it's like he didn't have a group of people he could reach out to. Maybe in the modern day now, like if there was a platform of Chelsea fans where it wasn't having to go to his mum and dad where he feels awkward about it, or his siblings, or someone who's going to take the piss out of him potentially at school for saying something. It's someone who supports that club with him. He might have had somewhere to talk to, and things might be different. So we want to start this group up as making that very easy place to go, just to take your mind off things, and hopefully it helps. But should we talk about some football then, guys?
Yeah, why not?
Let's move on to some football, shall we? So we've got we have a victory. Although I saw and I'm going to call this episode "Saving Private Johnson," but because there is a bit of I want to talk about some of the stick he's been getting and how nice it was for him to get a goal. And now it seems like Solanke's the new scapegoat because Johnson scored, so we've got to blame someone else for the next 5 minutes.
Vicario.
Oh, and Vicario, yeah. But there were loads of positives I want to talk to you guys about today, like Berryval, Dragusin, Davies, Spence, Kulusevski. I think there were some good performances in amongst the chaos. But I'll start with Jay as you're our guest, mate. What were your thoughts on the game? I've seen titles around the place as, it's a win, just get behind it and enjoy it. It was a makeshift team, and I've seen people calling it the worst win ever. Where are you with all this?
So I think, first of all, I go into cup games with the mentality of, well, the thing about the cup is, like, it's the cup. If you're out, you're out. So performance to a certain degree takes definite second place to result with the cup, and because there's no redo. So obviously, naturally, like, delighted to be in the next round. With regards to the performance, I thought we started fairly well. I was watching us play, and I thought we were circulating the ball pretty well. Didn't have a huge amount of threat. I enjoyed like certain players' performances, but then I could see clear things about the youth within their performance. And like, for example, Bergvall. To me, as the half went on, first 30 minutes is nice, but then it's like I need him to play in a certain position. And this is the thing that I was thinking about Ange, in terms of how he manages the side, and in terms of he's very hands off. In terms of, he'll talk to them at half time, he'll talk to them at the beginning of the game, but other than that, the players kind of need to work it out. And in that game, in that half, I was just looking at Bergvall and I was like, you just need to play 5 to 10 yards higher up the pitch. Yeah, that's where you need to be playing in order for us to create chances. But he was dropping deep, he was moving around the pit. He just needed to be a little bit more constant. And then I'm looking at him, and nobody is telling him play there, so he has to kind of work it out himself. And that's what this performance felt like to me. It felt like a lot of players who don't play, who haven't had regular minutes, who were trying to work out where the precise place that they should be playing, whilst trying to have empathy for other players that they were playing with in terms of where they're passing the ball, the runs they're making, the space they're trying to create. So it was a very confused performance. And because of that, I think it then microcosmed in slowness of play. When you're not sure about what exactly you're trying to do, you play it a little bit slower. You go a little bit safer. And that's what we did. And the disjointed aspects of it allowed Coventry to build confidence, to build a hint of, oh, okay, well, these guys they're not feeling it. We weren't feeling it, but I could be feeling it. And then all of a sudden they start growing in chances, and in the end, now we're in a proper cup game because we had the opportunity to take control of the game and we didn't take it. Like in other games when we don't take our chances, this was slightly different because we didn't really have chances per se, but we had a relative degree of control of the game. Now we're giving up the control of the game, and now it's a basketball game. Now they're threatening us. So all in all, it was a very, I want to say almost like sobering performance, because it was like I haven't felt like one of these from a level of team like Coventry for a while. So it was a reminder of, we're not good enough to rotate this many players. It actually told me that the squad at this point in time is weaker than this squad last season. Yeah, because when we went to Fulham and played, I looked at the team and I looked at this team. This team has the potential to be better, but right now, player for player, that team was stronger. Do you know what I mean? So it was actually very interesting to me that we played how we played. I don't really care. We got through. So I'm only going to keep the criticism to a certain level. I think Sarr is struggling. I feel he dribbles when he should pass. He passes when he should dribble. It's almost like he felt like he was trying to be something he wasn't in the first half. He was trying to be like a playmaker. He was trying to. That's not your game. So, like I thought, very confused performance. Not our best, but we've played good games in the Premier League and not got points. So, I'll take not playing well in the cup and getting through.
Yeah, and there's, like you say, there's the old saying, good teams can play badly and win. And I think it wasn't long ago we would probably have lost that game playing like that, but we did have enough to go over. Stu, the rotation topic Jay touched on there, you felt quite passionately about one position in particular, but I'll leave that door ajar and let you finish the rest. What did you make of the team selection overall and the amount of rotations?
Yeah, I'm not saying this with hindsight. I was very vocal before the game kicked off as soon as the lineup came out that I wasn't happy with the lineup. I thought the decision to play Gray at right back was wrong. I was not happy with Forster playing. And not because obviously everyone knows, or people who watch the show know I'm a big Vicario fan, but it's not that I wanted him to play, but I'm failing to understand the logic of why we gave Alston a 5-year deal if we don't trust him to play against the likes of Coventry. I mean, what is the point? Because playing Forster, he's an old man. He's going to leave at the end of the season because he's on 70k a week. We're not paying a 36, 37-year-old 70k a week next year season. He's shown he's too slow to get down. He's past his best. So what are we learning playing someone like Forster in a cup game? We should be giving the chance to the likes of Alston or Whiteman if we think they're good enough. And if we don't, why did we give them a new contract? We should have just binned one of them off and kept one of the two. I mean, why do we have 4 goalkeepers on the squad? It makes no sense to me. So I was really unhappy with that, and Forster's performance highlighted my pre-game worries. I thought he was very poor with his feet. I mean, Davis, I should say, saved him when he came out, missed the ball completely with a brilliant sliding tackle on, just in front of the line. The thing I also thought was he is supposed to be this big striker, so he was going to show everyone that Vicario is crap at crosses and how to do it properly. He fumbled a couple of crosses, and there I'm not necessarily going to blame him, but I think it highlights a weakness in our defensive structure at corners, that we are putting too many players in front of the goalkeeper, because we're all worried about them putting a player on the goalkeeper, and then so we're putting 2 or 3. So they end up having 2 of our players, 1 or 2 of theirs, and how is any goalkeeper going to get past 4 or 5 players to come and collect the ball? Maybe it is only in the 6-yard box, but if he's got 4 or 5 blokes in front of him, what's he going to do to get it? So I think that's something that Ange, hopefully after today, him and his backup team will look at to see what we can do there.
They
But
are definitely improving, though, aren't they, the set pieces versus where they were?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
we've conceded 1 goal this season against the best set piece side in the league. So I think clearly we have improved, but I think that is an issue. What I said in the beginning, what Vicario's become the boo boy. So I saw Murphy on TalkSport, going on about how he's the weak link. I've seen loads of Spurs fans in the Dubai Spurs WhatsApp group, even in our WhatsApp group. I've seen on Twitter about everyone saying, Vicario's not good enough. We should have gone for Raya and all this type of stuff. Whereas, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think we've improved. Vicario isn't great at crosses. I highlighted that when we signed him, but I don't think he's as bad as he's being put in a position to look. But apart from that and Gray, I thought the rest of the squad, the rest of the lineup made sense. But again, going back to the Gray decision, I don't understand why Spence didn't start. He was dropped from the Europa League. So if he doesn't play in these games, when is he going to play? He played well preseason. He came on and played brilliantly again yesterday. So again, I know we back Ange. I'm still backing Ange. Don't misunderstand me, but I think we can question some of the decisions that he makes. I think those 2 in particular were decisions I didn't understand, and I still don't understand, because I don't think Archie Gray had a good game at right back, to be perfectly honest. And I think, yes, he played at right back last season, but he's supposed to be a midfielder. He sees himself as a midfielder, so we should be playing a midfield. And I think Sarr didn't play well, as Jay said. I think it would have been nice to see Gray play in the position which is it.
There was some cryptic message from Ange at the end, though, that he kind of acknowledged that you can make decisions that are better for the short term, but he said they won't be as good for the long term. And I kind of read that as he was insinuating that maybe Archie Gray's got a bigger future at Spurs, in his view, than Spence. Players like that, and that's why they are getting priority in minutes over who necessarily would have got a better result for us in that game. But then Spence is still a young player, so it's
and right back, and Forster is not a decision for the long term.
No.
So that doesn't make sense either.
Johnny, would you have done anything differently on that team? Where was your viewpoint on the lineup and performance?
I really agree with Stu on definitely the goalkeeper, but also in the right back. I mean, for Spence, especially, we saw how well he played when he came on. And the doggy, obviously, I mean, he was coming on the left. Like, the doggy can't just play every game this season on the left. But if Davies is going to be going in these kind of games, and not non-Premier League games, for a doggy to be playing in those, especially the Carabao Cup, which is, out of the 4 competitions, the least coveted, and presumably, seems to be the one that Ange is least prioritising on the basis of his selection. I guess for me, in terms of questioning Ange, because I think we're often kind of accused as huge apologists or happy clappers, whatever else. And I think one of the things that a lot of people who listen or watch the pod appreciate is the fact that we do sort of really strongly believe in his methods. We're really grateful and appreciate the massive improvement and feel about an experience of watching Tottenham compared to the previous few managers. And I still I'm really, really hopeful and have a lot of expectation that Ange will deliver ultimately, with the perspective that we were talking about the other day. But at the same time, in this particular game, as well as the points that Stu's just made, it also and actually Jay touched on it as well in terms of the sort of hands-off thing. I think that there are times when a manager's body language and the non-verbal signals that they're sending out, as a frustrated supporter watching on television, I kept saying to Callum, my son, like, why is he looks like he was saying he looks clueless, and I was thinking it wasn't quite sort of Steve McLaren umbrella territory, But there was a bit of a similarity in the sense of he just isn't engaging. There's no emotion, and I know that's his style, and I know sometimes he does, and his celebrations are fairly understated and all of that. But especially when your side is struggling so much, I, as a supporter, was looking to him to be kind of projecting more confidence in the way that he's carrying himself, and it's easy, I suppose, to criticize and to look at that as a weakness or a sickness or a indication that he's not in control. And look, I don't want to sound like I'm really doubting him, because I don't, but I just thought at that particular moment, as a frustrated supporter, that was really bugging me. And then when that's obviously compounded by some of the substitutions, and the one that really got me was the fact that Werner is staying on the pitch for the length of time that he stayed on the pitch, because I don't think I've seen him play that badly before, and he's had a few poor performances in our colours. I thought Werner was absolutely horrendous, and he's staying on the pitch, and Solanke's coming off, fair bit, 20, 25 minutes before the end. I mean, I get that you want to keep Solanke for the Premier League, but we're 1-0 down and he's our top striker. I know he wasn't very effective, but again, he's just coming back from injury and stuff. So that was frustrating. And I just think, like, we are really lucky that at least, or lucky, well, we're in a position, unlike Coventry, where we can bring on players like Maddison, who actually was very good, I thought, and Son, who kind of, even his presence maybe is a bit intimidating to the opposition, but especially Kulusevski. Obviously, he's undoubtedly our best player this season, and he did it again. Spence was really, really good, and I'm so happy that, obviously, like everyone else, Johnson could tuck that shot away, because it wasn't an easy finish. It was a very cool finish, and given everything he's been through, imagine like the destruction that it could have been caused if he hadn't taken it as well as he had. That was just some serious jeopardy on that opportunity for the significance of that goal. So I mean, you can look at it from the point of view, there's lots of frustrations, but also you can look at it from the point of view, if we hadn't got those two really, really late goals and robbed Coventry of the victory that undoubtedly, in my opinion, they deserved, then the whole conversation around Ange and the team in general would have been really bad. And we're now playing Brentford, and that's not going to be an easy game either.
Don't you think we've entered the fan base a bit of a negative spiral to the point where, like, last minute winners aren't good enough because we should have won the game earlier? Like, good performances are typically caveated with, well, the other team didn't have all their players available, so it's to be expected. Gone.
I was just gonna say, like, it's funny because it's amazing the difference a year makes. Because when we were playing like Sheffield United and scored 2 last-minute goals, everyone's jumping around wherever they are. Everyone's so happy. And now we scored 2 goals. Even when we played Leicester, 2 goals in a couple of minutes, amazing. We scored 2 goals in 3 minutes. I haven't heard one iota of, wow, they dug in. Well done, like amazing grit. Like nobody has said, even myself as a positive fan, I haven't even said it. I'm just thinking, as you were saying just then, I was like, damn, I should genuinely have been more well done. Bad game, didn't play well, but you stuck at it. And while we had good players on the pitch, or our first teamers, in 10-15 minutes, we were just cutting through them. So to me, I was like, oh, actually, hold on. They were playing a low block. They were trying to defend. They had a lead to hold on to, and they couldn't stop us. We were just cutting through them, having one-on-ones. The keeper were making great saves. So I'm like, okay, well, this is the thing about criticism. And sometimes I'm like, I'm a supporter of Tottenham. Are you a supporter, or are you a critic of Tottenham that happens to support them? Do you know what I mean? And I get it. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. And I'm not the baron of free speech. Say whatever you want as long as it's not abusive. But I feel like we're almost getting to a point where I understand that a lot of people are frustrated and they want us to win. But there's also a path that we have to go down, whether or not it works or not, that everyone else has had to walk. Arsenal, Liverpool, even City, but they sped it up a lot with lots of money and high quality players. But even first season, go back and look at them. So we all have to walk this path. And to pretend that you don't, I think is disingenuous to what we're doing here. And it allows you to be more critical than you really should be. You should be able to criticize performances, positioning, how we're adapting to games, the fact of our formation and tactics is so similar. But when you then start almost looking at Tottenham in a vacuum, that's how I kind of look at it. So you look at our team in a vacuum and you don't appreciate the rest of the Premier League and all the teams around us, all the quality in the league, all the good managers. And if you do that, everything will always be bad. You look at the results and you say, this is terrible. But then you look closer and you say, okay, we lost to City, we lost to Arsenal, we lost to Newcastle twice away. And it's a bit like, when all of that happens, you say to yourself, the games in isolation, we have to be doing better against good teams. But it's not like we're constantly losing to bottom half of the table sides. We're losing to good sides, sometimes competitively, sometimes deservedly. So I just think that the criticism, especially at this level, just needs to be a little bit tempered, in my opinion, because my first instinct, I want to support and I want to trust the vision. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to blindly just follow Postecoglou when it doesn't work. It just means that I'm going to look at it from a more positive viewpoint, because I feel like that's my duty as a fan. That's my duty as a fan, to look at things from a rose-tinted version. Because the rivals will do all the criticism for me. I don't need to worry about that. Our rivals, the teams around us, they have plenty of ammunition to tell us how terrible we are. I'm going to look for the positives and the nuance and the context. And that's how I like to support the team. But everyone's different.
Yeah. And you look at clubs that we all despise. We mentioned this in the last time, like Liverpool fans are known to be the worst, but they are the best fans for a manager to be at a club and have behind them, because they will back their manager through thick and thin and stand with them and tell everyone else that they're going to win the league every single season, no matter what is presented in front of them, and they will back that manager. When an equivalent to Brennan Johnson, who's getting better every game, still getting pelted from our own fans, what's going to help him more? 61,000 people singing Brennan Johnson's name and encouraging him, or or some guy at a corner flag saying, "You're shit, get out of my football club." Like, Liverpool fans are the ones who are like singing the player's name in unison, and if anyone goes against that grain, they're hounded out of their circles and the football club and the crowds. Whereas us, I find the negativity's gotten to a point where we're always looking for reasons to justify why something good happened, and we have to find an excuse for why good things happen, not only why bad things happen. To the point where I think, like Jay said, it's just the instant reactions to my natural reaction at the moment is to look at that win and go, well, it was a poor performance and we shouldn't have won. And Ange got the goalkeeper selection wrong and blah, blah, blah. When in reality, Tottenham are famous for snatching defeat from the jaws of glory. And we snatched glory from the jaws of defeat in a game. And that used to be, as a fan for me, the most exciting games. I didn't care how we won. I'd just say cry more, and I'd laugh my head off at the opposition and really enjoy the fact we'd got a victory and momentum going into Brentford with a win. But yeah, it just feels like there's a lot of negativity around. We have got some questions, guys.
Can I just go back to one of the things that Johnny said? First of all, I want to just echo what Jay said about his way of viewing supporting a team and a club. I feel exactly the same way. We all have our thoughts, but ultimately the word support is in supporter, and I believe that's that's our job.
Exactly.
When it comes to what Johnny was saying about Engine not saying much, I agree with you, Johnny. I'm also looking at it, and I was criticizing my daughter's netball coach because I see her not saying anything when my daughter's playing netball. And I see the opposing coach, telling people what to do and stuff like that. The only thing I'm trying to find the positive approach to it is Phil Jackson did the same thing when his teams were going through difficult periods. He'd let his team try and figure it out themselves before. And if they couldn't, then he'd do something. But he'd try to give his team enough rope rather than having to step in, because he felt that being told what to do and learning yourself how to get out of it are two different things. So I'm hoping that's what Ange is doing. And it worked for Phil Jackson. So, hopefully it works for us. And yeah.
It's like you wouldn't, you eventually got to take the stabilizers off your kid bike and let them fall off and graze their knees. Like, that they're going to learn more quickly doing that than leaving the stabilizers on forever.
Exactly.
And it's kind of like the same thing all through life. And Johnny, you mentioned the leadership style of Ange, and I think we're used to saying, well, Arteta runs up and down the touchline, Klopp runs up and down the touchline, Pep runs up and down the touchline. Simeone big names like that. We all love to see the manager like jumping into the bench of players and blah. But I think there's two leadership styles. Well, there is, and you'll experience them all in your personal lives in the workplace through leaders. There's those types. There's the people who can evangelize energy because they're extroverts and they're just a vacuum of just positivity and excitement, and you just believe in them and want to get behind them. But there's also the figures who are just unwavering. And this is what Ange is all about. It's about being unwavering. Unwavering people who stick to a vision and refuse to be moved by no matter how much pressure confronts them. Those kind of people can move groups because you're like, wow, when the storm's coming, I want to be stood next to you because you're not going to falter. You're not going to blink. You're just going to keep going, get over this. And I want to be, it's like, I don't know if you've read the book, one of the best survivor stories, which is true of all time, was, what's it called? His boat got stuck in the Antarctic. Shackleton. Yeah. He there's a story of basically and there's a quote in that book from one of his men that Shackleton was not a great coordinator and navigator. Like, they were better leaders, but they said, if I am to be stuck anywhere and my life's at risk, give me Shackleton every time. And he was exactly that type of character. He was just famous for being the ultimate leader because he just, in the face of all odds, he just says, no, here are our principles. I'm standing still. I got this. And I think Ange kind of does that on the touchline. It's like you could be 8-0 down and he's going to look exactly the same as if you're 8-0 up. And it's like always that presence of, am I doing good? Am I doing bad? Have I upset him? Is he happy with me? I don't know. I better try harder and hopefully he'll smile. He's still not smiling. I must be doing something wrong. I think you can lead through that way. But guys, we've got some questions coming in. Johnny, this one's for you. Did everyone take a deep breath and do their yoga yesterday? I don't know if you've seen Ange's press conference. It's referring to that. He said everyone needs to go do some yoga.
Today's press conference?
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Oh, no, I only saw a few quotes. I didn't actually see it.
That was from...
I'm not the right person to ask.
Simon Guyan.
It was a good one.
Go on, Stu. I'll give that one to you then, mate.
No, I agree with him.
Do your yoga.
No, but I think we as a podcast are definitely the yoga masters, because that's what he was saying, Johnny, that people are always quick to come up with their opinions rather than do any analysis. It's very much kind of my eye test, and I've got to be first, and I've got to say it before anyone else can say it before me, and actually prove it with an analysis. People have got eye test, and there's a whole film called Moneyball that was based on the fact that eye tests lie and data is data, and I think people need to kind of remember that and just chill.
So Spurs, John, I'll try this one with you on this topic. Dean Shannon on Twitter says, have our fan base overreacted after the NLD defeat? That's you, Johnny.
Who are you asking?
You.
Oh, me.
Yeah.
Have they overreacted? Yes, because we were talking maybe during the international break about what might happen, because there was a little bit of murmuring, and somebody asked a question about Ange's position, and we were all like sort of flabbergasted that it was a conversation, that Ange's situation is like actually being kind of questioned. And I suppose that's how I am. That's what worries me the most in the light of the Arsenal result, is not about the performances per se, because as Jay said, we're looking at the bigger picture. We understand that there's going to be, there's context and there's moments and all of these things that, as Arsenal have improved so much over the last couple of years, they're coming out on the right side of a game like that for lots of reasons, but it could have gone the other way. So the whole Ange hysteria is what is worrying me, because I know that, as you've just said, Jim, I know that Ange is a pretty unflappable character and, is steadfast and incredibly secure in his own convictions about his way of, his own methodology. But the level of engagement that seems to be gathering, at least in terms of its presence, whether it actually represents the percentage in real terms of supporters, I'm absolutely confident that if you did a poll of everybody who goes to the games regularly, or members of Spurs, One Hotspur members or whatever, are not going to be anything like what it would appear in terms of noise. But there are some people, I saw the kind of mashup of watch-alongs that were nowhere near as good as yours, Jim, from the commentary game, and it was like the number of people who are on there who I knew and recognized and had seen on podcasts who were like just kind of like gunning for Ange, especially obviously when we were losing. It's like, what is going on here?
Oh,
What
mate.
is wrong what is wrong? I don't understand it. I just think,
I
what do we want? What do we want?
just,
Yeah,
I
insane. It's
hate
absolutely
this.
insane.
And do you know what I hate about it? It feels like we had a dam built which was stopping the sea of just stupid negativity coming through, like the stupid stuff, like sacking Ange. That is just so mind-boggling stupid. But you're like, don't worry, there's so many people who think that's stupid. We've got a big dam to protect us from that lot coming over the wall. But it's broken over. And there's groups of people who I thought, wow, you're typically a pretty steady individual, who were on that mindset. I'm like, you can hear them repeating the exact line for line criticisms that they've heard from these really toxic corners that I think are just spreading out.
I think I know exactly what it is that did it, because me, I'm a very positive person. Like I say, I'm like rainbows and sunshine coming out my ass. Like, don't worry about me. Like, I'm here to the death, boys. Don't, okay, I'll be in the bunker. Me and Ange sat like side by side. Good day, mate. This is it, and I get it, and I understand it, because the thing is whilst we're all here, I want to be clear. We're talking about the extremists rather than people that have valid criticisms. Because listen, no one's trying to say that our football is we have 4 points. There's plenty to criticize. But I think a key point for me is we've lost back-to-back London derbies at home. Fair to be upset about that. To me, very fair to be upset about that. But I think for me, what the thing that's pushed a few people over the edge is that there was a lot of rhetoric and talk going into the game that without Odegaard, they had nothing. So we've managed to lose to a team. And this loss has exacerbated so many of the little... It's like the manner we lost, so we lose to a set piece. Only set piece we conceded this season, but we happen to concede it in the North London derby, and it's the only goal that costs us the game. So now that's an inflamed thing that's happened. So there's no context around our set piece defending. Now it's the baby is in the toilet because we are throwing it out with the bathwater. We're done here because that's how bad it is. Okay, cool. So now we look at it a bit more. Odegaard missing. So now they think, okay, we're playing with no Odegaard and no Rice, and we can't beat them. So any sort of logic and context, because of the tribalism going into the game and the confidence level that, okay, we played them last year, it was 3-2. We were even I was like, listen, disallowed goal, own goal, Romero hitting the post. We were a bit unlucky. So then I would say, okay, take away Rice, take away Odegaard. I probably would even have us as at least 50-50, maybe even slight favourites going into this game. Lose, it's rattled some people. I get it. I do get it. I hope they recompose themselves, but I understand why they're rattled.
Yeah, I can and I can't, because I can see I see why they're rattled. I think it's what bugs me about it is it's like, if you really lay down the bare bones, like they are as good as Man City, Arsenal. They are as good, right? And that is arguably as good as the best team of all time. We are not anywhere near that right now. Like, we're trying to establish ourselves back in the top floor. We are 2 or 3 years away from that if things go right with Ange. So, and the whole mantra from that build up to the game was Arsenal got loads of injuries. And then then it kind of boiled down to other people going, you're joking. When you actually look at it, you got 1 injury and 1 suspension to your first team. Like, the rest are players that had never played for you before, or their squad players. Anyone could pull out a list of several players if they did that with their squads. So then the narrative changed again, and it went Arsenal without their entire midfield. That's a very generous way of saying you're missing 2 players. So I was thinking, well, we didn't have Basuma, so we're missing half our midfield. Like, the difference wasn't actually very much. They were missing 2 starters. We're missing 1 starter. And they're obviously way, way further ahead in their project. And then, like you said, there was the criticism around conceding that goal. I was like, I get why that's rattled people, because we've now built a stereotype we can't defend set pieces. Even though we've conceded 1 set piece in 4 games, which puts us better than the average Premier League team. But still, that's in line with what Man City had last year. So Man City conceded a goal a game last year and won the league. We are on par to have the same goals conceded as Man City did winning the league last year, but people are still saying same issues as last season, defence is a shambles. And I'm like, the defence, it doesn't feel like it. I just felt like Arsenal went in looking with a game plan for a very, very tight game and a 1-0 win. If we were shit, they would have come out all guns blazing and tried to attack us. The fact they came with that game plan is how they would cheat a Champions League away game, because they're like, Tottenham are good. Arteta's not an idiot, even though he's insufferable. And as Ross said, his trousers are the most annoying thing in the world at the moment. But they set up in a way that said, Tottenham are good, and if we go toe-to-toe to them, there's a strong chance we'll lose. So let's set up with a low block, because and everyone says, we still can't beat teams with a low block. No one has a magic formula to beat in the low block. That's why everyone's still used.
It's so good. Arsenal's defence is the best in the league by
amazing.
quite a distance, I would say. Yeah.
It's the way you go forward and every channel is closed. You're like, how is everyone behind the ball? And you're like, they're not. But it feels like they've got 20 people behind the ball every time you get forward. So there's got to be some level of confidence there. Then when you said it, Johnny, when we were at the game, I didn't ever feel like we were going to score going forward. Yeah. And I watched the highlights and I got home and I was like, we could have actually got a couple of goals in that game. Like, we won. You wouldn't have come out, if we'd won 1-0, you wouldn't be saying lucky Tottenham. You'd be going, fair.
Yeah.
If either side won that 1-0, you go, fair. Can see why that side won. So we took the best team in the world to that level of performance where, you know, it was just the team that scored 22 corners last year, something, 22 headers from set pieces.
22 set piece goals.
And they got one against us. I just feel like whatever we do now, if we concede on the counter, which Liverpool did, and lost to Nottingham Forest at home, that would have been Ange out, blah, 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 low block, can't beat it, shambles of a club. Like we said before, Man City dropped points in 35% of their games. Arsenal dropped points in 37% of their games last season. Like, the best teams drop a lot of points. It's normal.
I think that Ange's comment about winning in his second season, which he quite rightly pointed out in his presser, seems to have rubbed up the wrong way a lot of pundits, because they seem to be all going. Because I saw so many YouTube videos from pundits, not from podcasters like us who mean nothing, but these are people on TalkSport. The rest of it's like, he's so arrogant. How dare he? You state a fact. He's an Aussie. This is an Aussie. Aussies have winning mentality. And all he did was state a fact. And all of a sudden we're like, whoa, how dare he? He's a Spurs manager. This is the Premier League. How dare he come in here and be arrogant and state he wins things? Forget that. So now it's like, right, the knives are out. If we can, we're going to pull him down a peg or two.
Yeah. And we need to be careful. The media are deliberately going their way to bring him down and to bring us down. And certain circles are on social media. And by us joining in on the rhetoric, we're doing exactly what they want us to do.
It's true. I think I'm understanding it. Like, the other day, I was like, and I was talking about the talking to players and the communication to the players in real time and stuff. And I actually sat down and said, oh, you know what? Like you say, and I don't want to join the negative talk. I was just like, sometimes I feel it's like sometimes I'm not sure our players have the intelligence to work it out in real time. Like, it would help if somebody just told them what to do. Because whilst they're trying to work it out, I thought to myself, what other manager has this approach? And it took me ages. And the only person I could really come up with, naturally, that I never see talking to their players or telling them what to do was Ancelotti.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. They're actually quite similar leadership, actually.
Exactly. And when you look at them, similar age demographic, I was like, okay, that kind of, and it eased me a little bit. And I was like, okay, cool. Because it is a style and it's a personality style and it's how you run it, and it's almost like there's a high level of autonomy. And that's the thing, is that I think as a club at this moment in time, that we just need to kind of, I guess it's almost like just support the team and just bed in a little bit, just kind of like see where we go. Going into the season, I kind of thought to myself we'd be between 4th and 6th, because I didn't really have a hard grasp of where we were as a team. Like, I was still like, I feel like we haven't beaten a good team in ages. And that isn't an unfair thing for people to say. I feel like we can make context for it all we want, but when we look at like the Newcastle's, Villa's the last time.
Yeah, Villa.
So to me, when people start talking about that, I don't want to be too overly defensive because then I sound like somebody who's just being objectively just unnecessarily positive all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to be fair, but I completely agree with where you're coming from, where there's a narrative which jumps on like kind of confirmation bias kind of approach where you start at the end and you work backwards to your point. And the point is fitting the general, you know, the logic that they're undertaking is fitting the general point they're trying to make. So, you know, I am completely with Ange, but, you know, Brentford will be a tricky game, but I don't even classify this game as, you know, that good team. United is the game where I'm like, you know what
United's one we always lose.
I need us to win that game.
Yeah.
Like, I need us to, that's the sort of game that even last year we drew it and that team wasn't good and we still couldn't win. So there's concerns there for me, but I won't let it be anything beyond a concern. Do you know what I mean? It's not, we're not going to let this seed grow into a tree quite yet. But the team does, let's speak openly here, Jim. If our first team players don't regain form, we then have to acknowledge the club took a gamble that to an extent for this season failed in terms of the age demographic of the players they brought in. Do you see what I mean? Because if you're banking on the first team players delivering at a certain level and they don't, then you messed up not bringing more established players in to help them out.
Yeah. I look at it in one way. I say, so I believe like in prioritization of how you spend your money when you don't have as much as Man City do is so important. And that's what bugs me when we signed Richarlison when we did. Like I felt like we had Kane. We didn't have a single good left back, right back, centre back, or 10. But we spent 65 million quid on a backup striker. I was like, yeah, we need a backup striker, but let's get our priorities in order, right? Like we need all these players for signing, these young players to bulk up the squad and stuff, but there are immediate senior players that could have taken priority over some of those people, in my personal opinion. But that kind of is what it is. There was a comparison that we had on the last pod. Johnny dug up by Joe. She went on there. We'll just give it as context. But there are a lot of similarities with the overhaul that Arteta has done at Arsenal and Spurs, like the way they were, you know, hated to get rid of Aubameyang, Lacazette, Pepe, and all these. They're Lo Celso, Sanchez, and Ndombele, basically. These expensive guys on big salaries that no one else wants to buy. And those players were holding them back from being able to invest in new senior players on those big salaries that they could get in. So when they got rid of Pepe, Lacazette, and Aubameyang, then they could finally say, right, we've got some big salaries aside for a few bigger players now. And they didn't actually go out and go big. You know, they got the likes of Odegaard and like the right balance, like 23, you know, kind of like, they've proven they're going to be at least good already and they can make an instant hit in the team. But one point, Arteta was on 14 points from 15 games. Relegation form, 15th in the league. Was it 3 wins in 12 or something like that? Like everyone was calling for his head. And this was in this second season. And they'd had a similar thing where they'd spent a lot of focus getting rid of Deadwood and kind of left themselves a bit short on time to get the right players in. And it was the next transfer window afterwards where it really, really kicked them on back up to 5th. And then they were like, okay, we're coming back now. This young team's got loads of potential. But I just wanted to highlight that comparison to them, that I think we are in that season of that point where we will probably go through a period of 10 games where we come out and go, shit, this is really bad form. And then at some point in the season, we'll randomly have a 5-game winning streak. And we'll be like, we're back. And then we'll lose 3 on the bounce again. Because that is what an unstable team that's trying to get its stuff together is just going to do. But we got another one or two more questions before we finish, guys. So Spurs fan John from the Cheese Room. Hey, John. What does Ange do about Johnson? His confidence clearly is low, but a really good finish on Wednesday night. With Odegaard out, assume he has to start him on the weekend. I also heard the bad news that Werner is fit. Anyone want to take that one? Does he have to start Johnson, guys?
Yes.
On Saturday, keep the confidence
especially
going.
Especially after
keep
the goal.
Going.
You know, that's an obvious opportunity, isn't it, to kick on? I mean, I think a lot of us probably would say, and we've said before, it's like Højbjerg last year. Johnson is very effective off the bench for lots of reasons, including his pace and maybe the tired legs of the opponent, but don't think we've got the luxury really. I mean, Kulusevski is the other person who plays on the right, but I think he's doing such a good job in the midfield. That's where he's most likely to stay. I would think that Johnson has to start as well. Yeah.
I think it depends if Bissouma comes back, on which Ange alluded to the fact that he was fit to start this weekend, and whenever he's been fit, he has started Bissouma, which means that maybe Bentancur might move up a line, which would allow Kulusevski to go to the right.
True.
So that could be an option for them. But yeah, I think we need to do whatever we can to keep Brennan Johnson's confidence going. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I found it heartbreaking that you score a last-minute winner and you can't crack a smile.
Yeah. Yeah, because, when you review him, Sonny was like, go and celebrate with the fans. I'll be like, no. Like, you guys have just sat there and called me a cock and sung names about me and abused me with my mum and dad in the crowd, who were in the crowd apparently as well, whilst he was getting all this abuse, which is fucking disgusting behaviour when you think if someone in front of me, if I was sat there and someone was pointing at my kid and calling them a wanker because they didn't do enough stepovers and beat their man, I probably would have lost it. But anyway, so that abuse was going on for him. And then he scores a goal and was like, okay, mate, yeah, all forgiven. You could come over now and see us. I'm like, no. I'd be like, no.
Jim,
it's not a privilege for you to like me.
And the thing is that I feel like people are misrepresenting what he actually was feeling in real time. Because I feel in that moment, people it's almost like he doesn't know what to do, almost. In as much as it's like, I could see going through, it's like, if I celebrate now, these guys will think I'm giving it the big one.
Yeah.
And I've not been playing well. Yeah. If I don't celebrate, they're going to be like, this guy is annoyed at us and he thinks too much of himself. And then it's like, if I go over at the end of it and clap, do they want to am I taking the applause? He's a young man. The thing for me is almost like, he's so much younger than the majority of the people that are giving him abuse.
Yeah.
I'm just like, where is your empathy? Like, where is your understanding of somebody that's developing and growing? And you wouldn't talk to a 23-year-old in life like this. So I feel sad for him because I know what our fan base is like. And it's not like an attack on the fan base. It's just, there's always going to be people that will get more criticism than other players on just like a scale. People will just look at a certain player and, we'll look at now with Brennan. I was upset because I feel like somebody, as you mentioned, aesthetically, sometimes some of his criticism is because people got into their head that Ange needed a certain kind of winger. And as soon as they acknowledge that he wanted a certain kind of winger, when they look at Brennan Johnson and they think that he's not that winger, immediately they're like, he's not good. This person isn't good. They don't want to grow with him. They don't want to learn with him. They don't want to be like, we're going on a journey and this is where he's starting. And when he's great, we're going to remember when he stunk up the place. I just feel as a football club sometimes, it's like, when did we stop, just developing players and going on the journey with players and just wanting them to be great and supporting them? And, criticism's fine, but I just feel like that's really sad. Like, for me, it's like you guys mentioned, it's incredibly sad to see our players in that situation. And it's like coming off of 5th place last season after being 8th the season before. We've only played 4 games this season.
Yeah.
How has it come to this already? Like, how is this the current state of play? You'd think we finished 12th last season and Johnson had a season like Anthony. I don't understand how we got to this point right now.
Because apparently his assists weren't good enough. They were just giving people tap-ins or whatever. I mean, you look at the stats, okay, maybe he didn't play according to the eye test amazingly, but he had the stats. He contributed to goals and assists. And I think you're spot on, Jay, with how some people get it and some don't. Like, Vicario's getting it now. Johnson's getting it now. But Romero, who's been at fault for every single freaking goal we've conceded this season, is bulletproof.
Oh, he's untouchable, yeah.
Yeah. And I think also, as a fan base, we've had Richarlison bravely come out. I mean, we started this whole episode off with Jim talking about mental health. Richarlison's come out. One of our own players has come out about mental health. I've just watched a Burnley documentary about their striker, South African striker, suffering with mental health and having to go away. And here we are, as Jay said, giving a young man who's just joined us, who hasn't done anything wrong, his attitude is spot on, his contribution to the team is okay, and we're giving him crap. I mean, guys, what is wrong with us?
It's just, it's bizarre. We choose to like a human being based on how naturally they good are at football, not how hard they try, how respectful they are, and how honoured they are to wear the shirt. And that's completely the wrong way around. In my opinion, it's one of our best, most talented players we've ever had at centre-back. But I have no love for him. He's not Tottenham. He doesn't care about us. He'll leave in a heartbeat. If Real Madrid go, we'd like a contract, sir. He'll go. Same way Gareth Bale did. He'll be like, I'll be on the next plane over. Don't worry, I won't show up into training until they sell me. I will hammer them down to make sure I can get out this door and do whatever you need me to do, Real Madrid. I want to go somewhere bigger. But I think then we have players like Harry Winks and all that who aren't very good on our level of what we see we are. But they will fight, like Michael Dawson, who refused to leave when we tried to sell him, and Defoe, who refused to leave when we tried to sell him. All these players that used to get far more pelters when they're having a bad run of form or make a mistake. I'm like, these guys are proud to wear the shirt. They're wearing it like we would. And Brennan Johnson's apparently he's first in at training, busting his balls, asking every coach for improvement areas. So we're abusing him to make him play better, and he's reacting by he's already doing everything in his physical power to get better. So what are you getting? Is it that you feel you can convince the club to sell him? Is that what people are, as if that's remotely going to be influenced by what fans think on Twitter? Just
another
baffling
part of the irony with the Brennan Johnson and the fans' treatment is as well as he may be weighed down by his price tag, that his issues, according to my eye test at least anyway, a lot of people comment on it when he's playing with a sort of a degree of hesitancy or reluctance to fully commit to things, whether it's when he takes a shot, he's taking a shot and you think, do you believe you're really going to actually, hit a score here? Are you shooting because you have? And that sounds really horrible, but there's definitely been occasions it looks like that to me. The same as when he's going in for challenges or he tries to beat a man, and it's like, I mean, he's done like Stu said, the stats don't lie. I mean, fans getting on his back because he's not executing the preferred outcome on every occasion is only going to make him feel more,
Can I, Johnny? Can I piggyback on that? Because I have a theory. I'm a theologian. I don't think I used that right, but yeah, I have a theory, right? And my theory is the injury that he received at Palace really messed him up a lot more than people really think. Because I remember what that assist and even how he played against Arsenal is that the guy was aggressive. He was way more aggressive than he is now. That little give and go, head to Maddison, flick on, down the line, cut back for Son. That was a great goal. And that was pure intensity from him. He got that really bad injury where he needed stitches, cut his face up. And I genuinely feel there's a certain intensity since that moment that dropped a notch. Just a little notch. And at the Premier League level, it makes a big difference. And I think that once that intensity goes and you're a little bit scared in the duels, and now your confidence is gone, and it's confidence? It's like a staircase going up and an elevator coming down. So he's in a situation now where this is a good moment. He scored the goal, but it's not going to be linear for him because I genuinely believe that there's a lot there for him. And then being a young guy who uses Instagram and is always on social and basically seeing 80% of your fan, well, let's not say 80, let me not be rude, but let's say 50% of your fan base saying you're crap. After a big money move, like your friends, your family on there seeing that, you're going to feel embarrassed. You're going to feel not worthy. You're going to be going through a lot of things. And to add to the fact that psychologically, maybe you're not there since your injury. Genuinely, I'm like, can people not see what I'm seeing here? Like, I'm like, how could you? Why would you even think about abusing this guy? You just like support him.
Honestly, the best thing we could all do is like proactively go out of our way in the stadium as fans to
100%.
sing his name and just like cheer him and when he cocks up a thing or doesn't take someone on, everyone should be standing up going like Johnson, Johnson, Johnson. Like that's what would give him like actually I can do this. I'm going to get up and go. But instead, we do the opposite, and his just confidence goes down and down and down and down as we just cocks to him. But I'm going to quickly do last question, guys, and we're going to go 30 seconds on this one because I want to quickly get score predictions for Brentford as well. But do you think Ange has more than 3 seasons from Ace of Spurs? I think he's saying, do you think he'll still be with us in 3 seasons? It's quite a long time. I think my personal view is if Ange gets what he wants, which is in 2 years we win a major trophy, he'll be the one saying, I'm going to try a new challenge. And we'll be going forever. I can't believe we doubted you. Please stay. I'm so sorry for not believing in you for 3 years. And he'll probably be thinking, I can't wait to get out of here and go to a club that's actually going to believe in me from the start. And then we'll all look like right mugs. So
I think Ange is probably a bit more mature in terms of like the attitude towards us.
Yeah.
I think he probably does understand because he's like, the football is in his DNA, in his psyche, in his everything, the way he's been brought up by his father and everything. I mean, I don't know if I think the way we treated Johnson and Royale and all that is really, really awful. There's a bit of a mental health thread going through a lot of the conversations. But I don't know, really, are we really that much worse than other clubs? I don't think we are, to be honest. I think we're representative as a big club. There's millions of fans that support Spurs all over the world, and I don't think that we have a disproportionate number of people who are unpleasant. I think, unfortunately, the people who are not being very positive and supportive are just too noisy, and I think that Ange understands that. And we are all very passionate about our club. And those people hopefully will be eating their words, and I wouldn't disagree if Ange does deliver trophies that he might want to go somewhere else and try something else. If he can do it at Tottenham, then you can only imagine probably he would be getting offers from somewhere like I know Liverpool is the club of his childhood. Maybe Slot's going to be so good that that's never going to be an opening, but maybe something in Madrid or something like that. If he won the league or he won the Champions League with Spurs or something like that, then he could be easily be Barcelona or Real Madrid or something like that. If that opportunity came, and you wouldn't blame him for doing that, and that's nothing because we are a fan base that have been really, doubting him and stuff like that. Because I think a huge number of the Spurs fans are still really supportive. You still hear his name chanted. There was at the derby last weekend. There was some Ange Postecoglou chanting in the first half. I think there's still a lot of love for Ange. So that's the only thing that I would disagree with in what you said, Jim. Because
fair enough, that's fair.
I think that, as you say, that Ange has been around the block and he understands that negativity makes more noise than positivity. How many people made a load of noise, the purple and gold with, the ENIC out on Twitter everywhere, and then how many people show up to actually protest? I think that it's a silent majority are positive, but no one goes out of the way to say, yes, great job. But people, when they've got something negative to say, are happy to scream it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
And I think Ange knows that. I hope that he's going to be here for a while. I think, in a way, it's in our favor. He's getting on. So if he does get this squad and he's building for the long term, if he gets this squad going and he gets them to where we want to be, he's going to be almost 60 by then when we win something. Is someone going to take a risk and take a punt on a 60-year-old Aussie? I don't know.
Guys, we're over time, so we'll just quickly finish with some quick score predictions. Jay, what do you reckon, mate? Brentford, Saturday.
I'm gonna go 3-1. I think that I'm not sure whether we go behind and we have to come back, but I think we have enough. I think we've been generally good at home. The performances have been generally good. Visa being out is a blow for Brentford as well. If he'd been fit, I might have been a little bit more trepidatious. I'm using new words tonight that may or may not exist. But yeah, 3-1 and a solid performance at home. So yeah, let's.
It's like that episode of Friends, Jay, when Joey gets a thesaurus and he starts going out trying to have new words, and everyone's like, "Where are these coming from?" Johnny, what do you reckon?
I'm gonna predict a win because I want to be positive, but I'm really a little bit concerned by how good Brentford were last week at the Etihad, and they were really, it was Haaland was the difference, and they were at 1-0 up, obviously, had 2 or 3 opportunities to score again, so they're no mugs, and they didn't when they went to Anfield a few days or a couple of weeks before that. It was a close game too, so I'm going to say 2-1 to us, but I'm nervous. But yeah, let's be positive. 2-1, and let's please Solanke, please come on, hit the net, hit the right part of the net.
Yeah, you.
Right, so I've got some stats here. So we've only drawn one of our last 50 home games. They've lost 12 of their last 16 away league games. They've lost 4 consecutive Premier League away derbies. As Jay said, they're missing Wissa, who's been involved in 8 of the last 10 league goals. So I'm going to stay with the positivity that we've been saying throughout the day. We're going to concede because we will.
Set piece.
And, yeah, oh God, please, God, no. But, we've got to give people something to complain about. But I'm going to go for a 2-1 win with Johnson 2 assists for Solanke brace.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go for a 1-0 Spurs win for once. I think they're going to come with a similar game plan to Arsenal, but I don't think they will quite have the men to get away with it, and we will edge it with 1 goal, which would be perfect, right, for going to the Europa League, get at least a point from that, hopefully a win. And then I think, like Jay said earlier, Man United away is so we have the games we always should do better in and we never do, which are a recurring theme of every manager in the last 5-10 years, which has been Newcastle away, Man United away, Chelsea away, Chelsea at home. Like, did they just never go well? So I think people still won't give Ange much slack if we beat Brentford. So we should have beat Brentford. But I think we've got enough just to beat them. And I would see that as a small result, like you guys have said. I think City were blown away by how good they were when they turned up. They are not mugs. They're not crap. No. They're going to be a hard team to beat. So cool. Anyway, I think Jay's lost some internet issues, but up the Spurs,
Come on, you
boys.
Spurs.
Roll on Saturday.